Mafia, are you ready?
He said, are you ready?
This is Brotherly Love Wrestling Podcast, your first stop for everything professional wrestling. So sit back and enjoy wrestling talk at its finest with your hosts, Larry Hall and Joe Corrado.
Welcome to another edition of Brotherly Love Wrestling Podcast. And as you see, this week's guest is none other than the Sauce, Alex Zayne. Alex, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. As always, what is happening?
Not much. We're pretty much staying at least 6 feet apart from each other while we do this podcast. In our case, we're about 1,000 feet apart.
Yeah, at least 1,000 feet.
Now, for those who don't know, shame on you, but this is Alex's second time on with us, first time video.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, we got a little under 2 months from your anniversary of the 4th of July show for GCW, where it set your career trajectory and skyrocketed it.
Yeah, it crazy, just whirlwind of events came in after that, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. That's almost been a year. Crazy. In many ways, it feels like it's been like a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, since then your calendar filled up and you traveled a little bit more.
Right.
So what away since that moment and since you pretty much blew up on the independent scene?
Yeah, it's been, sorry, you cut out there for a second, but yeah, it's been obviously just a lot of kind of keeping up, and just adjusting just everything, I went full-time in wrestling. Shortly before that, I had determined, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I could have put all the chips in that bag. I think we probably even talked about that a bit on the first interview, and fortunately things panned out due to that event. And then, I didn't really know what to expect, right? Until you're just in it and you're just trying to get used to everything. So spent several months, obviously, getting used to all of that and kind of like adjusting to the way the new life was. And then here's this pandemic.
Yeah.
Some 9 months, 10 months later. Yeah.
Yeah. So in between that time, we know we've seen you at GCW shows. You've been on big indie shows like Black Label Pro, AIW, I believe. You wrestled. Did you wrestle Lance Archer in that?
Oh, that was Warrior Wrestling. Yeah, Warrior Wrestling. Yeah.
Warrior Wrestling.
I've done some freelance and stuff like that, yeah.
So you've done all that, and then you went overseas to what was your dream that you told us, over to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience?
Oh man, it was incredible. Which I went over there for like 45 days, so roughly 6 weeks or so. And unfortunately, like right in the middle of it, I had like this 2-week span off. It was like 12, 14 days off. And like that whole time I was just like sick, just with like the flu or something, I actually got sick twice when I was over there. So it was just interesting to kind of see, like, to get sick and then get sick again, because I was like, did I get the flu twice? Yeah, and then now everything about this whole COVID thing. So it'd be interesting to see if it's something that I had. But like I've already had it, I'm not sure, but kind of crazy. But the trip in general, like the whole tour in general, was just incredible, and there's hospitable people and culture over there that I was well taken care of, and eternally grateful for that whole experience. Can't wait to go back.
You even found a couple Taco Bells there?
Oh, yeah. I'll sniff them out. You can't hide them from me. You can try.
Now, I did have a random question. Now, you went over to Japan. You came back, and now your name on your social media now has all the Japanese letters next to it.
Right, yeah.
Now, is that just your name in Japanese, or do they give you a name over there and that's that name, like some cool
But
like?
there's I basically just pull it off of Google. There's like hiragana, which is like traditional Japanese script, and then there's this what is it, katakana, something like that. I'm probably butchering it, but it's basically it's almost like this subscript used for phonetically translating English words, because English is a big thing over there, and they speak it's not quite a set language, so to speak. Not everyone speaks or anything like that, but they use this like second script to kind of bridge the gap between English and Japanese. It's pretty interesting, yeah. And so that's kind of my English name translated to where they just easily kind of read it phonetically for them. So they would be like, oh, that's what, which it comes out more to Alex Zayne. So they would be able to just kind of understand immediately who they're dealing with. And it's probably much easier for them, which was my hopes in putting it up there, for them to find me on the internet through their native keyboards and stuff. Yeah.
So when you were over there, did you my fault. When you were over there, did you like get over? Were you popular? Did they grasp onto your style of wrestling?
Yeah. It was really interesting, actually, because you don't know what to expect, right? And I went the first show I did over there, I literally, because I had a bunch of issues with my flights getting over there. And so I ended up getting there later. And because I got there later than my original arrival time, I arrived in Fukuoka and had a show there a couple hours later. So I get off the plane after, 20-something hour flights, because I flew from my area to San Francisco to Taiwan to Fukuoka, Japan. And so I get there and go straight to a show pretty much, go straight backstage, and they're getting the ring set up and all that. And I start to kind of get in the mindset of, okay, time to go, hit the ground running. And like I said, you don't know what to expect. And that's even maybe a smaller city and stuff than Tokyo. So probably more remote compared to Tokyo, with a much broader outreach for the GCW crossover and stuff like that. Cause I ran into a lot of that once we get to Tokyo and stuff like that. But yeah, when I was in Fukuoka, I didn't know what to expect and stuff. And then, we do the show, and after we do the show, I go to the merch table, as one does. And yeah, it was kind of shocking. It was very well received. And I feel like, obviously there's the language barrier and stuff like that, but a lot of it came across oh, we've seen you in GCW or whatever, wherever they had kind of seen you before.
That's awesome.
And I know, yeah, and maybe it wasn't that show, because obviously I did so many merch table things over there, but several shows, people had recognized me from kind of I did one show right before I left for Japan with New Japan. And they were like, oh, you did New Japan, stuff like that. So it was very interesting. And then even people recognized me on the streets in Japan and stuff. I was like, this doesn't even happen back home. So it was the whole different experience. Yeah. And there's such a interesting culture there, and very respectful. It was awesome.
Now, I wanted to touch on the language barrier that you mentioned. Now, being in the ring and having to go over your match with such short time, and having that language barrier, like you said, and being at the style that you wrestle in is more fast-paced, and there's a lot more risk that's taken. How did the language barrier affect that?
Oh man, I was very fortunate, because I was over there with I was brought over by Shima with OWE, and he obviously has a world of experience, And what was interesting though was wrestling cultural in general, culturally, is a westernized thing. So they didn't really have their own words and phrases for certain wrestling things. So it was so it was they called whipping off the ropes. There's whip, and they called which they had a couple different things, tagging, to make the tag was touch as opposed to tag. But everything else, powerbomb was a powerbomb, moonsault was a moonsault, so a lot of the moves were just the same because they got the names and the, everything from here, So aside from maybe an accent, there was no real difference. Of course, it was the in between when you're trying to explain things. So there was oftentimes, especially with my moveset being as weird as it is, there was oftentimes when I would have to show them a video like, oh, this is what and they would, click immediately. And then it was just a matter of minute details of like, put your leg here and, that type of thing. So, yeah.
So how did you explain the Crunch Wrap Supreme?
Bend down, pray. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I would show them a video and they'd be like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. That's why it's the finish typically. Don't usually want to do a lot after that. So,
Larry, yeah.
The other thing I wanted to touch on is because a lot of people say we had Lance Archer on, who he wrestled a lot in Japan, obviously before AEW. And what was your take on being in the ring and calling the matches and just listening to the crowd and trying to feed off the crowd? Because I know it's a different style than us over here, because they're more reverent. They don't make the noises that they make that we do over here in the chants.
They're a little more maybe conservative, so to speak, in their reactions, right? They're a little more reserved and kind of, they make you earn it, and partly I think too, that's part of why most people who do go over there and stuff like that, like in a historical sense, like if you watch kind of anyone's career, they go through this indie thing and then they do like a Japanese run and they come back better, and I think it's just a different type of experience, yet in many ways the same. And it's almost like when you go over there, you're kind of trimming the fat. You go over there and you start to see, oh, well, certain things didn't work that maybe would have worked in like an American indie audience and stuff like that. And you start to kind of trim it back and tailor your style. And then when you get back to America, you do the same thing all over again. And you end up with this very culturally diverse style, right? Even on more of a subconscious level and just a timing sort of thing. So it was like with the audience there, and they, like I said, they make you earn it. It was kind of better, like in a way that like when you hit on something, you knew it like immediately. Yeah, it was like here, it's kind of like they could just be loud because they're having a good time and the beer's good, And
yeah.
Better than like I've had matches where it's like, man, that audience was hot, and then I watched the match and I was like, why? Right? But over there, like, yeah, they show appreciation when they feel like you've earned it. But at the same time, a lot of the reason that they're quieter and more reserved is out of respect to, like, they're watching the art form unfold, so they're paying full attention. And yeah, it's crazy. Like one of the very last maneuver at all that I did in Japan, big 8-man tag match, and it had some hardcore going on, and it was kind of like where everything had built to. And we had this thing, and like this whole spot, the Shima come up, and because I was on his team, and he was like, oh, we're gonna set the chairs up and on the outside of the ring, and I'll slam this guy on the chairs, and then you come over the top with whatever. He's like, maybe 630 over the top. And I was like, I don't know, it's a hard gym floor. Like I'll break my tailbone. And then he's like, okay, whatever you want. And I was like, so I thought about it. I was going to do the spiral tap over the top. And to the guy laying on the chairs, because I thought somehow that is the safest option. And so I remember I'm kind of like down and I'm selling before it's happening, and he's setting the whole spot up. So I'm kind of audibly listening for kind of the big slam.
Yeah.
So then I know, okay, I should G this up and take off. And I'm kind of watching out of the corner of my eye. And he's over there for a second. And then the big slam happens. And Shima's like, come on, Alex, you know. And I'm like, all right, it's time to go. And I get up and just kind of like glance over to see where he's at, right? Where he's laying at, just to aim, you know. And I get an idea of where he's at. But when I see him, I thought when we were discussing it, he's going to take the chairs, he's going to fold them out and put the seats together.
Yes.
You know, a couple of them, and lay the guy on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what happened. He took the whole first row of seats and just closed them and threw them on the floor in like a pile.
Oh.
They were just piled up. And then he slams dude on this pile of chairs, which also had everyone's purses and their jackets, just everything. And I just like glanced over there. And at this point, what do you do?
Yeah, you're up there at that point. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just send it. Right. And it's like the split second of me like seeing it. And I'm like, all right. Right. And I run and I hit the rope and I jump over or whatever. And because he had cleared basically the whole front row out and where I was landing, my feet landed right at the feet of like the second row who were still sitting in their seats, because they're not like the American audience would have just all been standing.
Yes. Yeah.
Shit, whatever. But they're all still respectfully staying seated and stuff like that, except for the people who had pretty much kicked out of their chairs. And so I land right at their like feet, and I like pop up and I'm looking these two like Japanese girls in their eyes as I'm just like, I'm like, and they're just looking at me like, oh my God. Because like all they saw was just a body flying toward them. They didn't know that they were in harm's way or not, right? So yeah, that was one of the times when they definitely let me know that they were there. The audience.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You could have converted two on the fence wrestling fans to become lifelong fans. You know, they could have just been like casually there and been like, "Holy shit, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen."
Right. Yeah. You never know. You never know. Wrestling's a wild thing like that, right?
Yeah. If you try and look at the positive of it, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many. Like, it's such an interesting audience over there too, because you'll have so many people that are in like business casual clothes who definitely just got off their 9-to-5 and came with their briefcase and their power suit on, you know. And I'm like that's you know, and they'll be at the merch table, and I'm like, what? Like, you're buying a picture of this weird purple haired guy? What do you know? So it's very interesting, and the whole audience there too is super respectful and nice at the merch table and stuff like that. And they're like partly kind of shy and bashful and reserved there too. It's interesting.
Now, I just wanted one more question about Japan. Now, would you say it's not really the same over here, like mainstream wrestling, how they focus more on like the entertainment value and whatnot and telling stories with promos and if you will. Now, they more or less do all their storytelling in the ring.
A lot more of that, yeah. You know, they obviously utilize promos and between match sort of, and a lot of their promos are more in that interview setting. You know, It's like the camera and the guy in front of the logoed wall and you know the backdrop and all that. But they do a lot of it in the ring, and I thought that was interesting too, because most of my matches were tag matches while I was there. And I noticed probably 4 or 5 matches in, just by the moves that I was hitting and by the things and that they were requesting that I do throughout different matches. Hey, maybe this match you do this, and maybe this match, like, you got to be outside of the ring when your opponent gets pinned, you know, that sort of thing. And it was all very interesting that they were building to something, and like you could feel it within each match, you know, much different than the American indie scene where it's like, hey, like these two people are good and they're buzzing right now, let's pin them against each other, and that's kind of it. Everything's almost this one-off, and yeah, there's a story being told from bell to bell, right?
Yeah.
But it was like from the bell of the first match to the bell of the last match, there was this story being told, and like even I was understanding it, even though like there were promos and stuff like that Shima and then were cutting after matches and stuff like that I couldn't obviously actually understand because I don't speak Japanese. but I understood the trajectory of the entire tour for me.
Yeah.
For me, and it was to lead to that match where we had this big blowout of a hardcore match almost. So it was very, very cool to experience, because I don't get to do a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, and would you say that's probably why when people do their Japanese run and they come back, that's why they're better, is because now they've learned to tell the whole story?
Yeah. And it even makes you better in the ring. Well, one, because they're such world-class athletes over there and just, I don't know, they're amazing. But also when you understand just the storytelling that they did on a match-by-match level to get to that bigger picture. Even if you're not running a program, so to speak, with that one wrestler you're about to be in the ring with, you are yourself running this program of yourself for however long. And you kind of get to decide what that is on the indie scene, So when I came back, I started to kind of look more at that and understand more of like, okay, who am I now? What am I perceived as now? And where do I want to be? And what do I want to be perceived as by whatever end, it could be 6 months from now. It could be 6 shows from now. It doesn't matter. But like, if someone were to be watching, what do I want them to be able to kind of understand, So, yeah.
So have you changed your style up just a little bit?
Yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily come full circle as far as like a super noticeable thing yet, but it's all to kind of trying this and trying that and figuring out the timing and placement for everything, and I think that's kind of the indie scene and just wrestling in general in a lot of ways is every match is a teething ring for like the next match, and kind of like this training wheels for the next piece of your career.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, you should be trying to learn every time, right? So
Yeah.
All the good ones usually do.
When now right after you got back, you had a little bit of time, but then everything hit with the new year and the corona happened, and now everything's come to a standstill as far as independent wrestling goes anyway.
Right.
But you have still been busy when it comes to social media.
A little bit.
On Twitter. So for those who don't follow Alex,
shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you first of all, because this is one of the best things keeping me interested and at least for a little bit being able to watch these videos that are going up. That somebody took, well, first of all, called you a fraud about Taco Bell.
Yeah, they did.
And then took your Smoking Skull championship title away. And this person is black everything, black mask, and you still don't know what's going on.
I still don't know what's going on. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I went, on a little bit of recon, and I started to do a little investigating of my own to try and figure it out. And I thought
you were just cosplaying as Dan the Dad.
Right. Yeah, I had a real Dan the Dad vibe. I didn't even know until my girlfriend had like pointed out, and she was like, "Why are you dressed like SpongeBob?" And I was like, I am dressed like SpongeBob. Yeah, so that, and it's I blame that a lot of the reason as to what happened last time was my attire.
Mm-hmm.
It was restricting blood flow and attack readiness, so I'll get you next time. He and I had a little run-in. As soon as I thought I was making a little way on who it was, that's when he decided to prompt me into a physical altercation. And
mm-hmm.
It didn't end exactly how I wanted it, but it ain't over yet. It's not over. Yeah.
So why does he call himself the one you fear? Is that just you? The one you fear?
Right. I'm trying to understand the same thing. I'm not sure. Maybe that's just him trying to antagonize me a little bit. Maybe that's
play mind games. Right.
Maybe he's trying to get in my head. I'm not going to allow it. I got it figured out. I'm coming. I'm gonna get this belt. He took my belt. You know how expensive those belts are. You bought.
We do know how expensive.
Right.
I will never be able to afford one.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought. And then I bought one, and then someone stole it. So, yeah. So he has it. I guess he better still have it because I'm coming for it. And he hasn't exposed exactly who he is yet, but I'm looking forward to figuring it out just so I can wipe the floor with him. I think he's,
Now
he says he's the one I fear or whoever fears. But
someone feels.
yeah, I think you're scared of something you're not showing your face, right?
True.
Now, what if this carries over to when wrestling goes back to normal? Are you going to challenge him to a match? Is that
maybe?
Is that how you,
Yeah,
you're going to find out who it is?
I'm taking it one day at a time. I've even thought if it's to get my belt back, maybe we have a match before things get back to normal. Maybe we have a match right here in the street.
A street fight for the title?
Maybe we street fight for the title, or if he wants to wait until things get back to, he wants to draw it out. He seems to like to draw things out. He posted he tried to be funny today, posted a little meme today. And, so he likes to poke and prod, but eventually he knows where this is going. And I'm going to get my belt back, whether he wants to wrestle for it or maybe he wants to just keep running around until I find him and take it back with a little force.
I'm thinking this should probably take place in front of a Taco Bell.
I think that's a good place to think. That way I'm not that far from my victory meal, once I
You're
get
on home turf.
Right. I got the home field advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would think. The ins and outs of all different Taco Bells.
Yeah.
And that inside and outside.
Yeah, I know my way around a Taco Bell.
Is that ever something you think you'd say when you were younger? I know my way around a Taco Bell.
I created the taco driver in 2005. I was backyarding, and when I created that, and it was still called the taco driver then. It's been a lifelong thing. So I don't know if Taco Bell specifically, but I knew I would always know my way around a taco for sure. It was interesting in Japan, and the Taco Bells in Japan, not all of them, but I went to one Taco Bell in Japan, and I want to say I was in Kobe, Japan. I went to the Taco Bell there, and we went there, and the guys, the OWE guys that I was with had never had Taco Bell before. And they're like, "Oh, is it good?" And I was like, "Is it good? What are you saying to me?" No, I really love bad food. Yeah. Created a whole gimmick on loving bad food. But so we took them in, and they're like, of course, I just gotta get everything, and they gotta try a normal taco or whatever. What was interesting, for whatever reason, this Taco Bell had star-shaped, little cookie-cut star-shaped cheese. The cheese was star-shaped. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Then instead of shredded cheese, it was star-shaped cheese. So it was great.
I don't think you'd ever see that in America. That's like a pleasant thing. That's like a happy thing.
Yes.
You're not gonna see that around here.
Right. Yeah, we shred it. We don't care about your happiness. Just eat your sad taco and shut up.
Eat your sad taco and shut up.
New shirt. New shirt. I had a sad taco after he ruined. See, I was going to do a flaming hot Doritos Locos taco review. That's a mouthful, right? I was going to do a review of that, and I had the taco. And he hit.
I think your mouth is watering as you're just thinking about
it. And this was before he stole my belt, and he had hit me, and he had dropped the taco. He broke it. I don't forget.
That's punishable by death.
It is. And then I still, of course, because I had made the commitment to my audience, I still, of course, reviewed that taco, but it wasn't the same. You saw the review.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
I did. You didn't. You had sad face. You had sad taco face. You didn't have star cheese taco face.
I know. I ate my sad taco and I shut it up.
Well, I'm looking forward to figuring out with you who the one we fear is.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll get to the bottom of this.
And if it ends in a match, I think that's going to be something that all of Twitter is going to want to see.
I hope so. So, because I want them to all see me beat the dog shit out of this guy. Whoever he or her is. I guess it could be a her. Some people on Twitter were like, oh, maybe it's a woman.
Maybe.
I don't care. I'll hit a woman at this point. I typically wouldn't hit a woman, but you go throwing my tacos around and stealing my belt. Gloves are off.
Time to smack a bitch.
Right. Precisely.
So aside from all that, when we come back and everything comes back and we actually get to go to independent shows again, which we cannot wait for. Is there, I mean, obviously not having many bookings right now because no one does. Is there something you're looking forward to or you have a goal set?
Oh man, right now I'm trying to just figure out how to make the best of the whole quarantine, since we don't know exactly when it'll be over, and even when it's over, when is wrestling going to be back or whatever. So I'm trying to keep myself sane, kind of, in this, and just train and keep my head down, right, and my hopes high.
Yeah, that's all you can really do right now.
Yeah. What's that, right? And so hopefully, when it gets back, there's a lot of things that I think I had on the horizon at the time. That I know I had. There's a lot of things that I can't even talk about, right? That were right there. We were so close, and and I was so excited to be doing a lot of those things. So I guess I have hopes that those things will actually come to fruition, and that we'll actually get to do a lot of those things. Just as far as shows and specific matches and different stuff like that. I don't, like I said, can't give things away, but especially if we do end up coming full circle and kind of circling back around to those matches and shows and stuff like that, I don't want to go ahead and shit the bed.
So, and that's the other thing is that, do you have a fear of maybe the momentum that you had before, maybe kind of cutting back a little bit because of this, and anybody on the independent circuit, realistically for that matter?
In a way, I guess you could. I'm not even a glass half full type of guy. I'm just happy to have something in my glass. It don't matter, So at this point, I guess I could, if I kind of thought about it, kind of bother. I'm like, shit, I'm going to lose steam, right? But I've been without clout and without a Twitter following or any interest before, and end of the day, when the bell rings, I'll find a way to generate it. I've been there. I'm not scared to go back because I've been there. So,
if you were hot before the quarantine happened, that you're pretty much going to pick up, maybe not exactly where you left off, but if you were hot before, you're not just going to be forgotten about right now. If anything, there's going to be more people that are going to want to see you because they haven't seen you in forever. So I feel like,
yeah.
I feel like your demand is still going to be high. Like if your demand was high before, and then you went to Japan, and then you're fucking really in demand, so you come back here. I feel like you still hold that value. I feel like no one is looking at it in a money sense. Like no one is losing value right now unless something comes out like a scandal.
Right, of course, yeah.
But right now you're not losing any value. Pretty much the same value that you left.
I think in many ways, if a lot of us as wrestlers, entertainers, even podcasters, it's a good time in a way, like a creative time to kind of you can really take advantage and cultivate some value, find ways, maybe you're not so hot at promos or whatever, you've never even done a promo, maybe it's a good time to do that. Maybe it's a good time to get your social media following right and do all these different things, or invest your time in just shooting your shot in many different ways and kind of figuring it out. Me personally, if I'm looking at the silver linings like I tend to do, when this guy stalked me and attacked me and knocked my taco in the dirt and then stole my belt and then threw me off a bridge, et cetera, when this guy did a lot of things, the whole time I was like, hey, at the end of this, I'll come out on top one way or another, even if you did break my taco and I had to eat a sad taco. Maybe I'll still come out.
I'm sorry. I tried to keep it together on that one. every time you say I had to eat my sad taco, you get me.
Sad taco. It's a beautiful visual, right? But yeah, I think that's an opportunity in itself, is to find a way to beat someone up in quarantine, since I'm not being hired to beat people up right now. Or flip on.
It's a good anger management technique.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it out. Right now I'm building it. I'm cultivating the anger value. By way of sad tacos, and and then I'm gonna unleash the angry taco within.
Speaking of which, now I'm going to stay on topic. What
Good
about?
luck.
Yeah, I've overcome worse. But now, do you keep your merchandise? Like, are you going to be putting out merch to try and keep yourself ahead of the game? I mean, because right now, if wrestling is what you were doing full time, you have to find a way to make money, right?
Yeah. What was interesting, I was out on an injury like a couple of weeks right before quarantine. Like I just started to kind of nudge my way back in off of that injury and was kind of taking it easy even as far as like what I was doing performance-wise to kind of make sure I didn't hurt myself, because I hurt myself at a Ring of Honor show back in, the timeline is messy.
Yeah, just a bit.
All right. But I hurt myself, and then I was out for like 3 weeks. And at the time I was like, hey, let's do some shirts. And I did a whole pre-order of shirts. And it was a whole new design and yada, yada. And then I was put my order in to get these shirts, but then the quarantine hit. And that place that I was getting it was not doing shirts. So I went to another place and another place and another place, right? And it was just hell trying to get the shirts done. I finally got a place to do the shirts. The shirts are almost here. Thank the Lord. And then I'll be able to fulfill all those orders. So right now I've kind of like dialed back as far as pushing my store, pushing any new designs and yada, 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 because I didn't want to kind of, hey, buy this shirt while people are waiting on their current orders, right? Even back from before quarantine happened.
Yeah.
It didn't sit right with me. So, so once those are here and I fulfilled all those orders, which I'm hoping will be completely and utterly complete. That's a bit redundant, but completed within like the next week. And then after that, I'll be, I have a lot of designs sitting, just waiting. So then I'll start to reach out to get those specific designs printed, and then I'll sell that. So I'll be screaming about shirts in a week or so, to the point to where you're going to be like, why did I even ask this idiot that question?
Not with us. Not with the addiction to wrestling T-shirts we have. We can't wait.
Yes.
Yeah, we're freaks when it comes to that shit.
Yeah. Me too. My closet is wrestling shirts. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you do a trade-off with wrestling?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll do a trade-off. I'll definitely do a trade-off. I owe you guys a little shirt off.
Oh, not with
we didn't meet with us. We just asked if you did it.
Yeah. A lot of times on shows with the other wrestlers and stuff like that, I'll trade shirts, especially like my brothers, because I want to support them, wear their merch and stuff like that. But we know how it is on the road. You can't always throw that $20. That's a whole meal. So sometimes on the road you gotta be a little frugal. So yeah, we'll just trade shirts sometimes, stuff like that. And then,
I mean, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah, a lot of us do that.
Way to get your collection up without having to spend much.
I always try to get a shirt with every place that I wrestle, of course, too. Like all the different companies I wrestle for, I always try to get shirts. Usually every show. Sometimes they get tired of my shit and they're like, look, we're not giving you another shirt. You wrestle here too much. We don't have that many shirts, But yeah, I always try to get that. So I have a lot of company shirts too, which I love.
You got this one?
Of course. Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, I got the all white version too. I got GCW is definitely sick of my shit. They're like, bro, don't even wear this merch table right now. Yeah, Dana's like, no.
It's like a dream of mine, being able to trade shit for shirts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
When shirts become a currency, now you're talking. We might get there quicker than we think with this whole pandemic. That might be the next route. We just trading shirts for rice. I don't know why rice, but tacos.
There you go.
It's almost like baseball cards, but with wrestling T-shirts.
Hell yeah. Different ones have different value.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
For sure. I like to get the retro, like throwback actual 90s WWF shirts and stuff. Yeah, I love those.
You get the vintage ones, like the real
I try
ones?
to. Yeah, I try to. Yeah, I look for them. Yeah, they get pretty pricey, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They're a hot topic right now.
Yeah, I got a little collection of them for sure. I got a guy that has his ear to the ground in that community. Mediums are also hard to find. I feel like because everyone in the 90s wore oversized shirts, like everyone just loved an oversized shirt, that they didn't buy mediums because they fit like they're supposed to, and people hated that. So like I wear mediums, mediums, whatever, and so yeah, they're actually even harder to find for some reason. It's like large, extra large, and everything is easier to come across, but
right in my wheelhouse.
There you go.
So before last question, I wanted to see if there's anybody out there that you haven't wrestled on the independent scene that when we get back to it, it's one of those things where you will definitely want to get in the ring with coming up.
It's funny because people ask me this all the time, and I still have to always think about it.
Someone new every day, isn't it?
Yeah. You don't want to always give the same answer either, right?
Yeah, there's so much talent out there too.
Tons. So if I'm putting it out in the universe, I'm putting it with the stars. I'm trying to make sure that I'm writing in as many dream matches as I can. Alex Shelley.
Ah.
Yeah, that's a match I want.
I didn't know which way you were going. I didn't know if you were going to go with Nick Gage or –
Of course, Nick Gage, of course, you know.
I didn't know where you were keeping it.
Janela, you know, all of them.
You haven't wrestled Janela yet?
I was supposed to. I had it. It was like, I think the next weekend following the announcement of the pandemic, it was like one of my first shows out of the pandemic to get canceled. Yeah, and they were like GCW was doing everything they could to kind of still have it, but you know, it's because once this first hit, it was kind of like, okay, well, where are we at, right? And then as we were figuring that out, it was 2 or 3 days later when they were like, yeah, it's not gonna happen, right? But we were pushing for it. Yeah, we're supposed to have that. It was kind of like this trilogy of matches that he was having he had one with Jordan Oliver, then he had one with Blake Christian, then he was having one with me, and then it was kind of like leading into this triple threat match between myself, Blake Christian, and Will Ospreay at Spring Break. So
yeah, we heard about that one.
Yeah,
God.
Yeah. Would have been, you know, maybe I wouldn't be walking right now. I don't know.
There's a good possibility that knowing the three of you and the competition and who's going to jump off what and do how many flips and who's going to fly who.
It would have been a drinking game of sorts for sure.
That might have stolen the weekend too.
That would have been the goal. And I think we all kind of were going into the match with that mentality, you know, like, hey, we're going to give it all we got.
It's the combustible element in that would have just it would have just shocked the shit out of everyone. It would have been a holy shit match, and it probably would have. It had that potential. Right.
And I think, you know, maybe we'll get back around to it. You know, we'll see. That's one of the many matches and shows that I was talking about. Of course, they announced that and kind of put that out there after the fact, because we were so close to it happening. But there were so many just matches and shows and stuff like that we'll get there.
That match alone is a sellout match. That sells out a crowd. That match.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, Alex, thank you so much for taking the time. Do you have one more thing, Joe? Before I wrap up?
I got one more. I wanted to touch back from our first interview with them.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you wanted to have your own identity before you signed to a big contract. Like you wanted to make your name for yourself, right? So they didn't change your name
and rebrand,
you. Now, is that still the goal? Do you feel like you're further away from that? Do you feel like ever since you got back from Japan, you have more to work on to get to that point?
I say we're almost there. Like I was right on the cusp with a lot of things that were coming down the pipeline. So we're almost there as far as that goes. Obviously, certain things could always change that, right? Like it's hard to say things like that, and then you end up getting rebranded or something. People are like, "You're a sellout. I hate you. You don't talk about tacos anymore." Sometimes on the weekends, but I think I was very close to that being a very real thing, and hopefully that'll still be the case. Like if everything still pans out the way that it was going and the way I wanted it to. But yeah, I still stand by that. I don't think I'm far off from it. You know, like if you build enough and cultivate enough value, like we were talking about earlier, to where it would be dumb of them almost to like change my name. Like they're gonna get more by bringing me in as Alex Zayne, and maybe they change the moniker, maybe they change the sauce, you know, whatever. And I'm sure I can't run always with the Taco Bell thing unless we get them on board or whatever, because on the indie scene, of course, the shit's all illegitimate.
Anything goes in the indie
Right,
scene.
right. So we'll see about all that, but you know, yeah, I think cultivating that value is what gives you a little bit of a leg up in the negotiation room, right? So
All right, that was my final question.
sweet, that's a good one.
Yeah. So Alex, like I said, we thank you so much for taking the time. It was good to actually see you this time and talk to you again. And we hope that everything keeps rolling once everything gets back and we can see you live and wrestling again.
I'm positive it will. I'm sure it will, and I can't wait. And hopefully I get back up to Philly and eat some bomb-ass wings again, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's right.
No more sad tacos. Get your belt back.
Yeah, yes, I will. And stay tuned to see me get that belt back, because it's coming. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm going to get it back. I'm determined. I'm coming for you. Stay tuned.
And that's at Alex Zayne on Twitter. You follow that. Look on the thread of everything and catch up is pinned to his profile. Yeah, so make sure to catch up. And Alex, thanks once again. It was great talking to you.
Thank you guys always. Much love.